Afro-Middle East Centre, a research institute based in Johannesburg. We have asked him to outline the history and the stalemate of the decades-long occupation of the Western Sahara. Good evening, Ebrahim, and thank you so much for joining us on The Globe. Now, Morocco and the Polisario Front independence movement are expected to meet for a second round of talks on the conflict over the mineral-rich Western Sahara. What do you make of these talks?
I think it's very positive that they're talking, as the report said, after 6 years. However, the contents of what these early negotiations do show that they're very far apart. Morocco is still continuing to insist on autonomy, and the Sahrawis want a referendum. And it's very unlikely that Morocco is going to give the Sahrawis this option, especially in light of the fact that currently Morocco seems to be in the ascendancy on the continent and in terms of international support. So, the distance between the two parties is very wide. And that's going to be, when the real negotiation starts, that's when we may see more fractiousness, especially when we talk about referendum numbers, who can participate in a referendum. Those are going to be issues that need to be dealt with. And, it currently doesn't seem as if any of the two parties have moved on their initial positions.
Now, you mentioned a referendum. Let's go back to the UN brokered ceasefire in 1991, and they established a peacekeeping mission to monitor it and help prepare a referendum on the territory's future. And that has never taken place. Why has this referendum not taken place?
I think, firstly, we just need some more background. The territory in question is a territory that was colonized by the Spanish and not the French. So it was, in a sense, a different territory during colonization. And, the war, civil war, or the war between the Polisario and Morocco happened since 1975 to 91. The referendum, the big questions over the referendum. One is the question to be asked on the referendum. The Moroccan monarch doesn't want independence to be an option on the referendum. He just wants yes or no on autonomy. And that's, to the Polisario, it's unacceptable to Polisario and to the international community, many. And two is who can vote in the referendum, because Morocco has very successfully created these facts on the grounds by, providing incentives for Moroccans to move to Sahrawi territory. I mean, it's different in the sense that, there are linkages between Morocco and the Western Sahara, specifically historical linkages. So Morocco has created these facts on the ground, and questions over, the question and over the eligibility to vote in a referendum have stalled the process. Not helped by the fact that many in the Security Council, prefer or see Morocco as a strategic partner, and thus have taken a stance, or not a very neutral stance, in the conflict.
Now, does this not bring the integrity of the parties to the forefront in terms of dealing with the impasse?
I think that, the big question is not necessarily the integrity of the conflicting parties, but the integrity of the parties of the UN Security Council, whether or not they are willing to be more objective in how they assess issues. So Horst Köbler could be, a very good diplomat, similar to what, Baker was during the early 2000s. But, in Baker's case, it was the French who undermined his objectivity or his neutrality or his solutions. Similarly, in current times, it does seem as if the French, the US, and the British are in support of the Moroccan position, and would likely use a veto, would likely try to stall attempts, if there seems to be a situation which would undermine Morocco. And so, unfortunately, that's how realpolitik works. These conflicts, and especially now, there needs to be new ways of finding solutions. And currently, it doesn't seem as if there's any new solution, other than the autonomy, independence solution, which, is a solution that is now 21, 22 years old.
Now, Ebrahim, what new solutions would you put forward with regards to dealing with this impasse and ensuring that the people of Western Sahara get what they're looking for?
I think there needs to be a solution, at least I think a more workable solution would be one in between the two parties. Something along the lines of federalism, but proper federalism, not as what the Moroccan state wants. Wherein Polisario would have, much more self-determination, much more autonomy, much more ability to institute local and domestic policies. Currently it doesn't seem as if, this solution is being talked about, because the Moroccans, under their federalist system, have even split up the territory and basically want a federal system where the monarch still holds sway, while, Polisario is still insisting on the independence referendum. Even if everyone agrees over the independence referendum, it's then going to be about who is eligible to vote, which will then take another good few, the initial voting, or the period for voter voter eligibility took between 2 and 3 years previously, and now it will take a lot longer. And there may actually be more Moroccans, in a sense, in Saharawi territory. So there needs to be a solution that can incorporate both sets of demands, especially since the region is war ravaged, and especially within Polisario areas, there's very little development that is taking place because of in Morocco's containing and constricting these areas.
Now, Ebrahim, let's speak about Horst Kohler, who seemingly has a lot of positive support. What's your take on him, and do you think what he brings to the table and being able to bring both parties to the table is going to bring out some sort of success or a way forward?
I think he seems to be very astute. I think significantly he's not just bringing Polisario and Morocco, but also Algeria and Mauritania. Many do believe that the solution over Western Sahara would be negotiated more between Morocco and Algeria than Morocco and Polisario. And also, I think the bigger issue, or the bigger significance, or the bigger impetus for these talks is the U.S. and specifically the Trump administration's, want or need or urge to try and pull funding away from the UN, pull troops away from the UN, and that's why it hasn't endorsed MINURSO for a full year and just gave it a 6-month extension. So this provides at least timelines. Previously Morocco was able to stall the process very easily. Now it seems as if the US wants wants a solution to be found soon. Whether or not the solution is acceptable, whether or not to both parties, that would be the bigger question.
Ebrahim, thank you so much for joining us. We'll leave it there for now. That is Ebrahim Deen, and he's a researcher at the Afro-Middle East Centre, a research institute based in Johannesburg.